There seems to be a bit of a resurgence of the run game in the meta. Now that people have been developing really tough pass defenses, some have gone back to Old Faithful in the Raiders running schemes. And I'm hearing a lot of complaints about this around the community, but it really doesn't need to be so stressful. In this video, we'll go over the simplest and, in my opinion, the best stretch run defense in the game. No crazy adjustments needed, and really, you don't even have to be doing anything as a user. Just call the plays that take advantage of these stretch defense improvements in the game. And that's with cover 4 out of 4-3 normal or 4-3 even 6-1. So you can find 4-3 normal in most 4-3 playbooks, but if you are really adamant on a 3-4 book, you can find 4-3 even 6-1 in Bears, Broncos, Lions, Patriots, Dolphins, and you can get pretty much the same run stopping behavior. I like the Kansas City Chiefs playbook because it has both of them, so you can switch between them depending on what you're seeing. But it also has Big Nickel over G, which, as I've shown in some of my videos, it has some really unique coverage adjustments that allows you to cover, some of these crossers and some of these other meta passing formations. And it also has Nickel 3-3-5, so if you're really into running man coverage, you can run that because that is probably one of the best man coverage formations in the game. Anyway, I briefly showed how stretch defense has improved in general this year in my very first video, Madden 21, but this video will go into much more detail against some of the different popular stretch formations. And although I will be predominantly showing 4-3 normal throughout this video, just know that 6-1 works pretty much the same way. So if you have that in your playbook and you want to use that, things are going to be pretty much the same for you. So let's get started with 4-3 normal. I'm just going to call cover 4 quarters here against I-form close halfback stretch. So if you've been following my videos for a while now, you know that pretty much every year for my base run defense, it's been 4-3 normal for the most part. I feel like it is a really underrated run coverage, run defense, particularly against the stretched offenses. And the other good thing about it is that nobody else really seems to run it at all. So some of these guys that are used to coming up against 3-4 odd or some bear looks or anything like that don't really see this too often and really don't know what to do with it. So in the past, I've had to do things like blitz all my linebackers and zone all my linebackers to get these safeties in force assignments to really improve my stretch defense. But this year I really don't have to do anything. So this year, this guy is still the force defender and he does a pretty good job, but this quarter safety fits much sooner and takes a better angle. And then new to this year, the middle linebacker will really get to the edge quickly and consistently. So usually him and the safety are free, totally unblocked, and there's just nothing the running back can really do in it. Like maybe if it was just one of those guys, they could make a miss or something like that, but there's nothing you can do with two guys. And then really you don't even have to do anything. Like if you want, you can use a D lineman, or what you probably rather want to do is use her at backside safety and just clean up anything if they find a cutback lane or anything like that. Or if you want to just be a third guy that gets over to the side that doesn't get blocked, you can do that as well. So how it looks is something like this. So just go ahead and run stretch here, and you see you just get both of these guys free, and there's really nothing you can do. Okay, so just instant replay here. Actually, really don't need to show anything, but the fullback is really targeting the mic here, and the wide receiver is usually picking the corner or the safety, and he usually actually ends up picking the corner. If he ends up blocking the safety, then the corner will come down. He will eventually come down, and he will also be free. So it's really two defenders on one here, and then this fullback is trying to work through all this mess to find the middle linebacker, and he's never able to find him. And then not only that, like this guy who you'd be using right now, I showed you, he's not doing anything. So you could be in the mix as well if they find a cutback lane, which they usually cannot. So now they're here against these two guys, and unless they're crazy with the spin moves or crazy with the spin cycle, there's really nothing they can do to get out of this situation. Sometimes, if this is 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, they can cut it up early to get that 1 yard. So it's not like a defense that is going to be hitting you in the backfield every time. But it's just a great solid base run defense that you can run every single down, and nobody's going to be willing to run 1 yard stretch after 1 yard stretch over and over again. And if they flip it to the weak side, years past, this defense has struggled a little bit with weak side stretch, but it's much better this year, again, because that middle linebacker is able to scrape over the top. And you'll see right here, at the very least, he'll get free, and sometimes you get a block shed and you get 3 guys free. So already you can see how this suffocates stretch plays, whether they're going to the strong side or the weak side. Of course, I'm going to just right away, I'm going to go through some of the other popular formations, but I form close is one of the best ones, and it really stands no chance. Now, some things that I should mention, again, I want to stress that do not user the middle linebacker here. He does an awesome job at his own. Just do not touch him. If you can, pick the weak side safety. Sometimes it's tough. If you go into formations like ace close or deuce close, you don't really know who the weak safety is, but there are options that I'll show throughout the game. So try to find the weak safety and just clean up. You really don't have to do anything. Again, you could even just be a D lineman or even a corner or anything if you want. It really doesn't matter. The structure of the defense will do the defending for you. The other thing is be careful with your adjustments. Like don't do things like pinching these guys or bringing guys down or moving guys out. Sometimes it might be okay, but usually it can just mess with the structure of things, and there's just no need to do any of that. If you want to, try to sell out to stop on a 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1 or something like that, sure, be my guest. But by and large, for your base, just try not to touch it. Don't blitz the middle linebacker or anything, because then he won't be able to scrape around to the edge. So try not to touch it for the most part. The other cool thing is that if you don't like Corda's coverage, and you suspect that they might pass on a 3rd down or a 4th down, 4-3 normal, especially out of Chiefs, has this cool cover 2 show 4. So you can use cover 4 as your main run defense, and then if you suspect a pass, you can go cover 2 show 4. Everything looks the exact same, and they might think it's match coverage and try to hit you with crossers or posts or anything like that. But then they're just going to run into vertical hooks and cloud corners, and that way I get a lot of interceptions from just guys not expecting things. And then if they're still if you guess wrong and if they're still going to run, you still have good run defending behavior from the Mike here. He'll come around to the edge. You just lose the safety here because he's dropping into coverage rather than immediately fitting. But what you can do, and this might be tough, but after the snap, you can click in the right stick, and that'll make that safety fit a little bit quicker. So just like this, and then he'll immediately fit, and then he'll come down as well. So you could do that too. So that time it worked. You had 2 or 3 guys coming in free, but just note that the cover 4 is much more consistent as a run defense. And then you might say, okay, halfback dive is great against stretch, but what about halfback dive? It's not super amazing. It's not gonna hit these guys in the backfield, but I'm willing to bet, and just based off experience actually, nobody's gonna be willing to run dive over and over and over again if they don't have the stretch option. So just keep that in mind. Now, single back deuce close. So this one's kind of the tricky one where you don't know who the weak safety is, so you don't really know who to pick. If they are running to your side, then you're kind of, I feel personally I don't play as well as the CPU as a run fitter there. So even in this case, you can just be a defensive tackle if you want and just put the controller down, because again, you're just going to have 2 guys free plus maybe late block sheds to stop that at the 0. Or again, even if they flip it to the weak side where their formation is symmetrical but we lose a gap, it's still okay because that Mike comes out free and you have the corner coming in late. Then you have single back wing flex close. It seems to be a pretty popular, or not popular, but I'm seeing it a lot online with especially a lot of the better players. If they run stretch to the strong side here, again, well, in this case you had somebody shed through. But even if they don't, let's just try it again here. You just have 10 guys coming in free. And then if they want to run this to the other side and maybe move a tight end over, it just doesn't do a good job at targeting guys. I think sometimes the force outside linebacker comes in completely free here. Yeah, and there's just nothing they can do there. Now where things start to get a little bit tricky is with these I form and strong I wing formations, where the stretch is attached to an RPO, or sorry, an RPO is attached to the stretch. It's not as bad as last year, but because it's an RPO, some of these defenders react kind of weird. Like say, the safety will come down a little bit and then hesitate a little bit because it's an RPO, even though he has nothing to do with the stretch or the looky portion of it. He should just fit normally, but just how the programming works in this case. So he's not as aggressive, unfortunately, but usually things still work out pretty well for you. So in this case, they didn't. Still picked up only 2 yards. I can run that again. And you see it's a little bit tougher to get them for no gain. With that being said, there are a number of things that you can do here. One thing is, of course, because you're going to be, there's no possibility of them flipping the stretch here, flipping the stretch to the weak side here. You're almost completely free with this guy. So you can be aggressive here and flow with that stretch. And so you can be that +1. So those 2 examples that I just showed you are without the user involvement. But other things you can do is actually just spread your linebackers. And this guy does a pretty good job of shedding his block. Or as you'll see the behavior is kind of weird, and it just usually works out in his behavior. Actually, in this case, I think he has out of my way. But if I put a regular outside linebacker there and I spread those guys, you see he almost 100% of the time will shed that guy and make a tackle in the backfield. I can show it again. He just bounces right off his guy, and he's always free. So unless he's coming up against somebody like if they sub in an O lineman with abilities or something, he's always going to make a play there. And then you might think that it's weaker against the dive. And we'll go into some dive stuff here right away. But what's cool is that this outside linebacker, because he's out of the box, he just doesn't get picked up. So although you can usually pick up a few yards, he's always free to come in to make a play. So yeah, that's one thing you can do. Just spread your linebackers. Even without your user involvement, he's usually going to come in free. And the other thing you can do, as I switch to 6-1 here, because I think it is a little bit better against this formation, you can put, if you have inside stuff on some of your guys, you can put them at your defensive end spots. Of course, if you have it just on one, they could easily flip it. But, if you have 2, you're going to be really golden here. What's great here is he usually gets single teamed by the tackle or at the tight end. I forget which one. And then you could even contain, but he'll just blow past that guy, and you'll just have another body in the backfield there that you can't deal with. So it's no outsiders or inside stuff because it's an RPO, and it doesn't really distinguish it whether it's outside zone or power or dive or counter or whatever. They just trigger on all RPOs. So if you have them at the defensive end spots where he's going to get a single team, he's just going to blow into the backfield and make that play. And this will work at a 4-3 normal as well if you put them at the defensive end spots. I just think that's a little bit more consistent with the 6-1 here. Then you might think if you see essentially both A gaps open. So you would think that, the ISO or halfback dive would be really, really good. And, it is if you just kind of leave it like this. In this case, he got stuffed, but usually they can find a way to get, 5 or more yards. But, if you have, you're pretty much free as the weak safety here because they're never going to be running to the other side. And usually nobody's really doing any good passing out of this. So you can really be aggressive and come into the backfield with your safety. You can also shift your D-line to the strength to move this guy into the A gap, which actually this is what this formation looks more closely. This is a little bit more accurate to what it actually looks like in real life. So then you just have a little bit more bodies up in the middle there, and then just allows you to shoot even easier. Or, and I might do a video on using the defensive line in the near future. You can, again, because all these guys are going to take care of the stretch for you, you can just be a defensive tackle. Like, you don't even need an inside stuff ability or any abilities. Just as long as he's pretty good, you can just engage with the center of the guard, do a little swim move, and then get the back in the backfield. So you have that option as well. And that's it. I know there's a few adjustments and tips that I went over there, but by and large, if you just call these plays, you're going to be fine. But I just wanted to give a few extra tips there for you guys just to be even better than it already is. Again, if you're just calling 4-3 normal as it is, for the most part, you're going to be good. Just these wing formations are a little bit tricky because they have that RPO attached. But you can be an aggressive backside safety. You can spread these guys to be a little bit better. I would really only recommend this linebacker spread against I-wing and strong wing. Against the other stuff, there's really no reason, and it actually breaks down a little bit. So only say this adjustment for that. Again, these wing formations make it a little bit more obvious as to who to use her. And you can be aggressive with this backside safety, or like I showed you there, you can be kind of glitchy and crazy with the defensive tackle. Yeah, if you have the inside stuff, would be nice to put it on those ends, but again, it's not super necessary. But if you have them, it's going to make it that much better, especially against on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, where they think they might have this really guaranteed play, and then next thing they know, they have a guy in the backfield. So that's that. I think it's awesome. Again, if you don't want to switch to a 4-3 book, I understand. For whatever reason, 3-4 seems to be the popular look for the past several years, and if you don't want to get out of that, 4-3 even 6-1 should be in a lot of those books. Otherwise, that's it for this one, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one.